So let's talk about our idioventricular rhythms. So idioventricular, the beautiful name describes exactly what's going on, right? Or idio, we don't know why this is happening, right? Um, and ventricular is coming from the ventricles. So we're going to separate our heart into the atria and the ventricles. So right here, here's the atria, and so this whole thing is gone. Electrically speaking. Yes, we can find that on a CAT scan and MRI, but it's not working. So this is all gone. We're not going to see this. So we're not going to see any P waves. We're not going to see a PR interval. So we're kind of be destroyed a little bit down here. And so what's happening is electricity is coming from somewhere down here. So we're not using this nice normal His-Purkinje system. And so we're not going to produce, we're not using this His-Purkinje system, so we're not going to produce a nice normal QRS, right? Instead, we may be starting here, we may be starting here, right? We're going to be starting somewhere, but once again, it's just like that atria. Every time I start here, I'm going to produce a different QRS than when I start here. But, it's going to look exactly the same as it did last time I started here. So, because I'm not starting where people are used to, we're going to call that bizarre because it's going to look different. The other thing is if I start here, what's happening? Well, while my electricity is going down this pathway, it's going down here. And so we're traveling different parts of the heart at roughly the same time. And so literally it's going to cut this time for the electricity to move through all the edges of the heart in half. Well, if I'm starting here, I'm having to go all the way over here. And so it's going to take about, could take up to twice as long. And so my QRS is going to look a lot wider. So instead of looking like this nice thing, my QRS might look something like this, depending on where in the heart I started, right? So you think about, once again, lead 2, the electricity should be going down and to our patient's left. Remember, this is the right arm, and this is the left arm, right? So as it goes down towards my patient's left arm, that's considered positive in lead 2, right? But if I start over here, where am I going? Well, I'll change color here for clarity. If I start over here, I'm going to the my patient's right. That's not normal. That's going to be like a negative right there. My heart's electricity is also going up and it's also going down, and these are going to cancel each other's out. And so I'm going to get a negative voltage because my heart's electricity is going the wrong way. If I start over here, we'll use purple. If I start over here, what's happening? My heart's electricity is going like straight up, and right here, we're going left and right. So that's going to cancel out, but that's going to be a negative, right? But you see, as I take an odd path, I'm going to produce an odd-looking EKG. And so one of the things that's interesting, and I don't fully understand it myself, is your QRS is going to be linked with your T wave. It makes sense when the electricity spreads over the heart and the heart resets itself that it's going to produce a shape. Um, you know, Now, could I predict the shape that's going to be produced by looking at the QRS? No, I can't quite predict that well. What I do know is that if this is positive, the QRS is positive, the T wave will be positive because these typically go in the same direction unless something really goofy is going on here. But yeah, you're going to produce a wide, bizarre looking QRS, and your T wave is also going to be kind of bizarre looking. All right, well, I hope that helps out, and good luck. So for your idioventricular rhythms, once again, you're not going to have any P waves. Why? Because if the atrial was working, we wouldn't be having a ventricular rhythm. We would have an atrial rhythm. Or if the SA node was working, we'd have a sinus rhythm. If the junctional node was working, we'd have a junctional rhythm. So you only get these Idioventricular escapes when the higher pacemakers have failed. So no P waves, no PR. And so because we're not using the His-Purkinje system, we're going to get a wide, bizarre looking QRS. The heart rate's going to be 20 to 40 beats per minute. All right, so why do the different pacemakers have different heart rates? Well, it's kind of to prevent confusion in the heart, right? So if all the pacemakers fired at 60 to 100 beats per minute, it wouldn't be clear who's the boss, right? So normally the SA node is firing at 60 to 100, and so the AV node, if it gets zapped, it says, "Oh, time to beat." You know, the AV node, SA nodes tell me to beat, and so it will zap the His-Purkinje fibers, and they say, "Yep, time to beat," and so it will be at 60 to 100. But if you have a heart attack that takes out the SA node, the AV node waits until the heart rate drops below 60. Put another way, the AV node says, "Look, it's been more than a second since last heartbeat. Today is not a good day to die." And so it starts zapping the heart, so the heart beats faster than 60 beats. Somewhere between 60 to 40 beats per minute. Well, let's say you have another heart attack, takes out the AV node. Well, the Purkinje system, the Purkinje fibers are saying, you know what? It's been about 1.5 seconds since the last time we were zapped. Today is not a good day to die. And so it's going to zap the ventricles to keep the heart rate from going too slow. And so that's going to make your heart pump anywhere from, as I said, 40 to 60, 20 to 40 beats per minute. And so because my electricity is just coming from the same place every single time, I'm going to have a regular rate. Okay, so why is this not junctional escape? The heart rate's going to be slower. So junctional escape is going to be 40 to 60, but this idioventricular escape 20 to 40. So pretty clear right there. The other thing is with the idioventricular escape, you're going to have a wide, bizarre looking QRS, no P waves. All right. Why is this not accelerated ventricular escape? The only difference is the heart rate, right? So accelerated idioventricular escape, the heart rate is 40 to 100. With idioventricular escape is 20 to 40. Well, why is this not ventricular tachycardia? Once again, the only difference is the heart rate. Idioventricular escape, the heart rate is 20 to 40. Ventricular tachycardia is greater than 100. Well, why is this an agonal? Once again, the only difference is going to be the rate. So agonal heart rate is less than 20. Ventricular escape, 20 to 40. Now, that being said, agonal, you're actively dying, so the heart rate does get a little irregular there towards the end. But initially, it can be regular. Okay, so accelerated idioventricular escape is just like idioventricular escape, but you gotta hurry. Step on the accelerator. Vroom, vroom. So instead of beating at 20 to 40 beats per minute, you're beating at 40 to 100 beats per minute. If you were beating faster than 100, you would have called that tachycardia. So anyways, no P waves, no PR. QRS is going to be wide and bizarre. What's wide? 0.12 or greater. All right. Your rate, once again, 40 to 100. Because I'm coming in the same place every single time, it's going to be a regular rhythm. All right. Why is this not a junctional escape? Right? Well, a couple of reasons. So if my heart rate's between 40 and 60 beats per minute, that's not going to be, junctional escape is 40 to 60 beats per minute. Well, accelerated idioventricular escape, 40 to 100 beats per minute. So if you're within the 40 to 60 range, it could be either one. Right? If you're between the 60 to 100 range, it could be accelerated junctional escape. So what else are you going to look at? Well, you're going to look at, as well, the P waves. If you see any P waves, it cannot be a junctional escape. I'm sorry, it cannot be a ventricular escape. The other thing is that QRS is going to be wide and bizarre in that accelerated ventricular escape. It's going to be narrow in a junctional escape. All right, so why is this not just ventricular escape? Once again, because I'm stepping on the gas pedal, right? So accelerated ventricular escape is 40 to 100 versus idioventricular escape is just 20 to 40. All right, why is this not ventricular tachycardia? All right, so accelerated ventricular escape is going to be 40 to 100. Tachycardia is going to be greater than 100. Why is this not agonal? Because an accelerated idioventricular is 40 to 100. Agonal is less than 20. So that's the differences there. Okay, so ventricular tachycardia. So once again, it's coming from the ventricles, so no P waves, no PR. The QRS is going to be wide bizarre. And it's a tachycardia, so that means the rate's going to be faster than 100 beats per minute. Because it's coming from the same place, it's going to be a regular rhythm. So why is this not junctional tachycardia? They both have heart rates greater than 100 beats per minute. The reason being is ventricular tachycardia, no P waves, wide bizarre QRS. Versus junctional tachycardia, inverted P waves may be present, right, and happening before, during, or after the QRS. Right, if it's happening during, we're not going to see it. But the other thing is the QRS is going to be normal and narrow in that junctional tachycardia. All right, so the only difference between these other ventricular rhythms and ventricular tachycardia is the heart rate. Once again, tachycardia, the heart rate's faster than 100 beats per minute. Accelerated ventricular escape, the heart rate's 40 to 100. All right, so ventricular tachycardia, the heart rate's greater than 100 beats per minute. Ventricular escape, 20 to 40. Agonal, the heart rate's going to be less than 20. Ventricular tachycardia, heart rate greater than 100 beats per minute. That's the difference there. All right, so what is an interpolated PVC? Well, let's start off with a PVC. So what's happening is your heart's being bump, bump, thump, right? So we had the extra heartbeat came from the ventricles. So no P wave, no PR, right? And so we have the extra heartbeat from the ventricles. It's going to be wide bizarre QRS. If you have 4 to 6 per minute, that's going to be occasional. If it's going to be 4 to 6 or more, that's frequent PVCs, right? So here we're going to show you kind of what normal is. I'm going to do the ink and right here. So let's do this. All right, so this is going to be our normal right here. And then this will be our PVC one right here, our interpolated PVC. So right here, everything's going just fine. And I'm going to put in our interpolated PVC right here. So some weirdo thing right there. And so you look at this, is if I were to cover this up, so I'm going to put a piece of paper right here, and I'm covering up this PVC, right? And so you can't see in this area right here. So I've got it all covered up, right? And so all covered up. And so you look at this, right? Here's our P QRS T wave, P QRS T wave, right? And so you come down here, P QRS T, P QRS T, right? Exactly when we would expect it, right? You're not going to say, oh yeah, there's a totally another heartbeat in there. No, right? You're not going to be able to see that. You wouldn't expect it, right? And so what's happening is you have a PVC that's not going to disrupt the underlying rhythm, right? So when you remove your paper, like, whoa, there's a PVC here, right? And so that was an interpolated PVC, right? We threw in this PVC and it had no effect on the underlying rhythm. This, the very next heartbeat right here. So here's the first heartbeat. Here's the next normal heartbeat. Happened exactly as if this PVC between these two had never existed. Okay, so RNT PVC. So it's a PVC, right? It's that extra heartbeat. It came from the ventricles. It happened on the T wave of a normal heartbeat. So this is your P QRS T wave, P QRS T wave, right? And so what we're saying is this. This is your T wave, and if I were to divide this thing in half, this part of the T wave, the heart's just starting to relax. This is what's actually known as an absolute refractory period. So you can zap this as much as you want, but that heart is not going to contract. It says, all done, right? No contraction right here. This right here is a relative refractory period.
So if you zap this, the heart will contract, but it will take more than a usual amount of zap to make the heart beat. So what's happening is in uh, this half of my T wave, I'm generating an R wave. And so it's going to look something like this. So here we go. We got my QRS from my PVC. As you see, it's wide and bizarre because it doesn't look right. Now one of the reasons why we care about this is it sets us up for our next rhythm that we're going to talk about, a Torsades De Pointes. This is so dangerous that we actually, this can actually kill you. So let's say that you got a defibrillator built into your heart because your heart's so bad it can go into fibrillation, absolutely kill you. Do want to find out at 3 in the morning, so you want your pacemaker, your defibrillator to malfunction at 3 in the morning when you go into ventricular fibrillation, your spouse is sleeping next to you. Well, no, that's not good, right? If it doesn't work at 3 in the morning while your spouse is sleeping next to you, you're going to die, right? Because there's nobody awake to save you. Nobody knows that you're actively dying, all right? So when's the best time for this thing to malfunction? Well, when you're in the doctor's office. So what's going to happen is we're going to hook you up in the doctor's office. We got you all hooked up to an external defibrillator, and then we're actually going to create an RNT PVC on purpose. We're going to zap your heart and create this RNT PVC and try to get you into some crazy electrical rhythm to see if your defibrillator zaps you out of it. And so that's what we're looking at right there. So actually a very serious, rhythm right here.
All right, so this is Torsades De Pointes, also known as polymorphic ventricular tachycardia. All right, so because this is a ventricular rhythm, there's no P waves, there's no PR. The QRS is wide and bizarre. Now, Torsades De Pointes means twisting of the points. And so what's happening is the QRS is constantly changing. I also like that name, polymorphic ventricular tachycardia. Poly meaning many, morphic means shape. So many shape ventricular tachycardia. And so because of the tachycardia, the heart rate's going to be greater than 100 beats per minute. But, you think about this, one of the things I've been beating you guys up about is if I'm starting at the same place, going to the same place, it's going to be a regular rhythm. If I'm starting in different places and going to different places, it's going to be totally irregular in terms of the rhythm, right? If I'm working at ECPI today, tomorrow I'm working at Kmart, the day after that I'm working at Walmart, the day after that I'm working at Lowe's, you're going to have no idea, what my schedule is. Going to be very, very irregular, right? So likewise, if it's coming from the AV node, bad example, but it's coming from the his Purkinje, it's coming from the upper right ventricle, it's coming from the lower right ventricle, upper left ventricle, lower left ventricle, you're going to have no idea what the next QRS is going to look like. All right. Now, the thing also is what does this look like versus ventricular tachycardia? So when we talk about ventricular tachycardia, we're talking about monomorphic ventricular tachycardia, one form of ventricular tachycardia. So here's a picture of polymorphic ventricular tachycardia. I'm going to draw a flat line right here because that's going to help me draw my picture. So this is an isoelectric line. So if there's zero electrical activity, this is what's going on. And so what you're going to see is you're going to see something like this. And so it seems like the electricity is kind of going around in a circle right here. And so you see how I'm getting bigger, 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 then smaller, smaller, smaller. And so I go from being like positive to negative back to being positive again. And so, so it seems like the electricity is kind of going around in the heart in a giant circle. Okay, so ventricular fibrillation. So what's happening? the ventricles are quivering, right? So I'm not really contracting, I'm not really relaxing, so I'm not pumping really any sort of blood. So no P waves. So because there's no P, there can be no PR. Because there's no QRS, so that means there's no real atrial rate or ventricular rate. And so there's no real rhythm right here. And so it's just going to be very kind of chaotic. And so the heart's literally just kind of quivering right there. And so I'm not really moving blood there. Okay, so agonal rhythm. You are actively dying. Your heart is not pumping enough blood to keep you alive. And so there are no P waves, there's no PR, because this is a ventricular rhythm. Now the QRS is going to be wide bizarre. The heart rate is going to be less than 20 beats per minute. That's why you are actively dying. Now the heartbeat can be regular, but if you're dying, yeah, at some point in time it's going to become irregular, right? Because you're not getting enough blood flow, so things are going to start failing and everything else. So, and eventually it's going to become real regular, right? That's asystole, right? Anyways, so what's going to happen right here? This is going to look exactly the same as ventricular escape, accelerated ventricular escape, and ventricular tachycardia. The only difference is the heart rate. Agonal, the heart rate is going to be 20 or less every single time. And that's going to be the difference. Okay, so asystole. So what's happening? You have no electrical activity, right? That's a deed, right? And so no P, no PR, no QRS, no rate, no rhythm, right? It's just a flat line, right? And so this is what you see right here. Here's your picture right there, just flat line. Now, if you watch TV, they're going to have a TVism. Oh, they're in AFib. No, right? They usually show asystole. They're in asystole. Get the panels clear, right? Why do they do that on TV? Because that's not what you do at the doctor's office. The reason being is it's a TVism. If they showed VFib and they're zapping the patient, grandma or whoever else is watching television, they're like, what the heck? The heart was being just fine. Why are they zapping this patient? Right? But most people are aware that you should be seeing something other than a flat line on an EKG. And so that's why they zap asystole on TV, even though that's not what you're supposed to do in reality. All right. When you see this in reality, you're doing two things. Actually, three things. Number one is, you're confirming that this is real, right? So this is just like VFib. You're going to see a lot of asystole. And so you're going to run to the room, check up on the patient, and the patient's like, hey, how you guys doing? Okay, that's not real, right? For whatever reason, an electrode popped off, whatever. And so that's why you're seeing your flat line. In the case of VFib, the person's moving around. So it looks like they're having VFib, but they're not, right? And so, a lot of times when you see VFib or asystole on the monitor, it's an artifact. It's something that you see on the monitor, but that's not actually going on in your patient. All right. So the next thing is if this is real VFib or in this case asystole, you see that flat line, that's going to always be asystole. That will never be VFib. Your person's going to be passed out. They're going to be turning blue. They're going to be turning gray. Right. And so obviously you're going to be doing CPR in this person. One of the other things you're going to be looking for is reversible causes of asystole. So is there something we can fix so we can get them out of this rhythm so we can save their life? The last thing you're looking for in asystole is just to make sure that it is asystole. So when they go into VFib, at first it's very chaotic and you're going to see a lot of changes. But as the heart starts dying more and more, you see how I'm quivering, but it's not as much. All right, and so, this can look suspiciously a lot like this right there. And so you don't want to say, oh yeah, they're in asystole, don't zap them when they're really in VFib. And if they are in VFib, they can respond. Obviously, gross VFib, the big waves are way more likely to respond than just the itty bitty little waves. But hopefully that helps.